Hey there, welcome to another part of Self and Personality. I'm very happy and excited to be here today because I intend to take you guys through Sigmund Freud's theory of personality. It's rather interesting and quite revealing, so I'm sure that you guys are ready, so get a grip. And before we go, I want to remind you of the several techniques that Freud introduced to us from last time we met. So Freud had interestingly given us the tools and techniques such as dream analysis, analysis of error, and free association. I hope you guys remember these techniques which we did together. I'm also curious to know whether if you've had the chance to kind of play free association with one of your friends or with, an individual or a family member. I'd be happy to know how that went, and you can pin that in the comments for me below. Before we go to understand personality, guys, and of course, you guys know the definition already. But what Sigmund Freud found out for us was that personality is not something we pick up along the way. It is something that gets defined and becomes a part of us when we're actually as young as an infant. Isn't that so good to know? So, a lot of your personality starts to get defined when in fact you get toilet trained, or when you are, at the stage of maybe when you're a little baby, you're crying and you're crying for milk. And whether if your mother comes to provide you with the milk that you're crying for timely or not also shapes your personality. It is also in the schooling when you get to go to school and you meet and you enhance your set of social agents and the kind of interactions that you have with them that very actively shapes you to be who you truly are. And of course, there is discovery of your sexuality that's happening as well. So that is something that we're going to deep dive into today. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, as we deep dive into the psychosexual theory given by Freud, he gave a very interesting five-stage theory, guys. And this psychosexual theory, it says, like I mentioned earlier, that personality is something that gets established way early in childhood itself, during infancy. Okay. However, a lot of this personality gets, it kind of remains stable through life, but it can also be changed because of some of the internal or external factors that you are exposed to as you live your life. Right? So, but the core aspect, according to Freud, is that these get established very early in life. So, he proposed a very interesting five-stage theory to personality, which is also called as the psychosexual theory of development. He said that the development of this personality, it is something that can also get arrested, and it can have a long-term impact on your life if you do not move past that stage. You know how some individuals love to thumb suck even when they're way beyond their infant years? That's what Freud referred to as fixation. Or some of us also have the habit of wetting our bed, even at the age of 9 and 10. That is also a form of fixation, according to Freud. And that's what we're about to discover. So the very first of the five-stage theory, guys, is known as the oral stage. And I would love if you guys can, kind of underline or highlight the important stuff that I've put ahead of you. This is straight off from your NCRT, so you should not have any trouble learning or comprehending the information here. So oral stage is something that starts from 0, which is from birth, to 18 months. Okay, at this stage, the entire focus is on the mouth. So all the pleasure, which is the sexual energy, is focused upon sucking, biting, eating, which is largely at the time of feeding, when the baby gets fed by the mother. There is some kind of frustration which could lead to pessimism, envy, and sarcasm if that oral stimulation does not timely come or is provided. Okay, so that whatever requirement the baby has needs to be provided timely for the pleasure principle to feel for the pleasure, sorry, so not the pleasure principle, but the pleasure to be derived. Of course, there is something known as overindulgence here. What if the baby is wanting to have too much milk? That overindulgence can lead to personality characteristics of optimism, admiration for others, and neediness for others. So, guys, are you seeing very carefully how, a lack of thereof or overindulgence of the same can lead to these two different personality types? Okay, so a lack or no timely providing of the milk that the baby needs when it's hungry will lead to that pessimism, envy, and sarcasm in the individual. Interesting how this develops as part of personality, doesn't it? So that was all about the oral stage. I'm going to move up ahead to the anal stage. Anal stage, guys, is about 18 months to 3 years. During this time, a lot of sexual energy is focused upon the anus. Okay, individuals who feel frustrated, that means if they're not learning how to get toilet trained well, okay, can be anal retentive in character. You know how they like to just hold, maybe they like to hold and not really go when they need to go. So they can become, that personality type can become extremely stubborn, over obsessed with cleanliness, and feel possessive as well. So those are those are the anal retentive character kind. However, on the contrary, those individuals who, kind of wet everything, they, before they even reach the toilet seat, they probably, leak all over. That overindulgence can actually lead to a very anal explicit character. So they become very messy, disorganized, and reckless. And also, interestingly, as they grow up, that shows in their personality in the form of a very messy room, or they dress up all messy, their basic hygiene's kind of absent. So that is what a anal explicit character would look like. Who knew that just toilet training or just, this anal stage, which is about up till 3 years, could define so much of your personality? Isn't it interesting? Up next, we've got the phallic stage. The phallic stage is something that comes about at 4 years of age. Over here, it's a very interesting stage where a lot of your sexual energy is focused on your genitals. During play, little children, they realize, especially boys and girls realize that boys have a part that girls don't have. And of course, during playtime, a lot is discovered or explored, especially during bathing as well, right? So this goes back to the whole phallic stage, the theory. It's a little absurd, but it goes back, but it's the truth. Goes back way in the hood to the Greek era, wherein there was this entire story, which I would love to share with you now. It is the Greek tragedy of Oedipus. What this strategy is all about is that there was this whole Oedipus complex that came about from the mythical Greek king Thebes. Okay, Thebes, who was the king of Thebes, who was called Oedipus, and he is a tragic hero in Greek mythology who accidentally fulfilled the prophecy that he would end up killing his father and marrying his own mother, thereby bringing disaster to his city and his family. So when the truth was discovered by his mother, she hanged herself, and Oedipus, he kind of gouged out his own eyes. So, which is interesting to know, but this theory existed, and what it says is it has the Oedipus and the Electra complex. In the Oedipus complex, a boy, he develops these sexual feelings for the mother and a lot of hatred towards the father. Okay, noticing that the mother has no penis, the boy fears castration, which is known as castration anxiety, and the fear of castration outstrips the sexual feelings for the mother. That's true. Therefore, the feelings get repressed. Okay? Because the boy realizes that he doesn't have the penis that the father has, and the mother might just, reject him for it, he represses those feelings and overcomes that. Hatred for the father and sexual feelings for the mother. So what eventually happens is the boy kind of identifies with the father and reconciles the feelings of guilt and fear. that actually happens when the child is at about 4 years of age. Same is true for girls, and for girls it's understood as the Electra complex. Electra happened to be the sister of Oedipus. So girls basically, just like how boys are attracted to the father, the girl gets attracted to the boys are attracted to the mother, the girls get attracted to the father. And unlike men, they also realize that they don't have a penis. Hence, the girl's love for the father becomes erotic and sexual. So the girl will want her own penis, which is penis complex. Later, when she realizes that she can't, she will identify and reconcile with her own mother. And this is exactly when, girls during reconciliation, they start to play things like ghar ghar, kitchen, and those kind of things that you play, or, teacher. Those are basically the things that the mother is doing. So they identify more with the mother and do all of those things which the mother truly does to reconcile with her. On the contrary, boys to reconcile with the father, they actually start playing with Lego, or they start, doing things that the father enjoys to do. Right? So this was all about the Oedipus and Electra complex. I'm also going to put an additional link um, in the comments below for you to check out Oedipus and Electra complex in more detail. Okay, according to Freud, if there is any kind of fixation at any of these stages, guys, it will result in the individual being, reckless, and will have a lot of difficulty in maintaining healthy relationships with people in their adulthood. So resolution of Electra and Oedipus complex at their respective ages is essential. In fact, it's important for the individual to move ahead of their, respective fixations. Okay. Up next, and the second last stage that we'll discover together is called the latency period. So latency stage is a stage wherein there are healthy relationships which are developed with the opposite sex. Okay, school life kind of enhances and allows you, it gives you the platform for boys to be friendly with girls and girls to be friendly with boys. At this age, there is no sexual drive. A lot of focus gets shooted at the cognitive nature of the individual. So you know how there comes a time when boys take a lot of pleasure in being great at their athletic abilities, and girls, they kind of deep dive into creativity. So they love creating, making art and craft, and they focus so much on school life, on getting their good grades, on getting that A plus, or getting the smiley or a star, whatever makes them happy. So a lot of focus gets kind of transferred to cognitive aspects, which give them a need for achievement rather than getting focused on the sexual nature or the sexual drive. Okay? Okay, that was all about the latency period. The last stage that we'll discuss today is called the genital stage. So the genital stage is a stage wherein, you are actively on puberty, and at this stage, the individual is very capable of having healthy, sexual, meaningful relationships with others. This is when boys and girls start to date each other very maturely, independently. They, even romance each other, and it's healthy at this age. So this is the 5-stage psychosexual theory of development according to Freud. I would love to know how much you relate with it and how much you agree with it in the comments. So make sure to comment and let me know what you think about the theory. Okay, what's also important at this stage is that Freud was very interested in letting the world know that failure of the child to pass through any of these stages effectively leads the child to experience what is understood as fixation. So fixation is when you get stuck at a particular stage, and this fixation can result in the individual not being allowed to have healthy, meaningful relationships with others. Okay. On the contrary, there is also something known as regression, guys. Regression is when the individual kind of falls back. You know how we healthily progress through all the stages, but when the child is unable to progress in a healthy way to the next kind of does progress, but due to certain circumstances or situations, they fall back to an earlier stage. Okay, that is regression. And regression can only be overcome when the person's problems of that stage get resolved. So it is so important to healthily progress through every stage and really, find resolution for all of those stages in an adequate way. Otherwise, the individual will tend to regress. Okay, so that is all about fixation and about regression. I hope this was meaningful and you guys enjoyed Freud's psychosexual theory of development of personality. Okay, so the last aspect which we'll look at for this theory are some of the criticisms. So I'm sure that while we went through the theory, you guys had some criticisms in your mind because you must be wondering what the new terms like, you know, we'll just go through it together. So when I look at the criticisms, guys, so this theory is largely based on a lot of case studies. So these individuals were actually people who came to Freud, who was a general physician. And, based out of the many people, whoever came to them, he developed his theory based on them. So the theory definitely lacks a lot of rigorous scientific basis. It barely has scientific basis to it. The other thing that that Freud was criticized for was that it was a very small and atypical sample of individuals. Okay, so you couldn't generalize so many individuals based on the small sample size that Freud was tending to as a general physician. Also, the concepts which his theory speaks about, they're not very clearly defined. Some of them, they lack scientific testing as well. So things like penis envy or things like castration anxiety, those terms are simply not properly defined. I'm sure you guys agree with me. And then, of course, you have, Freud, who had a lot of the clients who came to Freud, they were males. And to prototype a male person, a human, for personality development, even for females, it kind of is incorrect, right? So he overlooked that female experience and perspective, which is why his theory was largely focused just on males, which was taken for a great criticism of Freud's psychodynamic approach. Okay, guys, I guess for today, you've gone through the entire theory of psychosexual development of Freud, wherein he took you through the 5 stages. To summarize the stages very quickly, let's do that together. We went through the stages of oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital stage. I hope all of the 5 stages are clear, guys. This could always come as a 6 marker, wherein you will be requested to give an introduction to Freud. You will be requested to write out the 5 stages of development, of course explaining them very well in detail, and yes, of course, talking about the criticisms of the psychodynamic approach to personality. That's a wrap to today's lesson. I hope you guys understood and enjoyed. If there are any questions, please feel free to pin them in the comments section and I assure you to get back to them. You're also free to reach out to me for any clarifications. Feel free to do that and I'd be all happy to be there to help you guide through. It was great teaching you this. See you again. Bye.